Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the final part in my introduction to how to record a GPX synchronized video. Now, this is the final part, but it's actually probably the part I could have started with, but I wanted to show you techniques so that you could bear those in mind when you're actually recording the video. So let's move on and see what equipment are needed. First of all, you need an action camera with good stabilisation. And I use an Insta360, and that's got something called flow state stabilisation. And that uses a gyroscope and accelerometer within the camera to note down the movements that are occurring as you record. And then later on in post-production, it can remove those movements. You also need a GPS tracking device, so either a watch or a phone, but ideally you should have one that's got a barometric altimeter that can record data every second. If it doesn't have a barometric altimeter, then you're going to have to rely on elevation correction from websites such as Strava or GPS Visualizer, and that's absolutely fine. So what is good stabilisation on an action camera? Well, you're looking for things like flow state on Insta360, hyper smooth on GoPro, rock steady on Digi, and super smooth on SJCam. If you already have a camera without any of these, you can look at third-party options such as Real Steady and SteadX. Or if none of the above are available, or you want to save a bit of money, just go for the stabilisation in DaVinci Resolve, for example. And DaVinci Resolve is a video editor that is available for free. You also need a smooth and steady vehicle mount. And for running, you often have a bobbing up and down of your head. And what you need there is a fourth axis stabilizer. I've put that down in the optional here. Or you could run with your camera mounted on a bike. Now, where do you mount your camera? So you could mount your camera on your handlebars on your bike. You could mount it on a car and actually drive the routes. Or you could mount it on your chest, say, for example, with a chest mount. Now, the latter is, I find, quite difficult because you have to tilt the camera upwards. So when you lean forwards, it's not pointing at the ground. So you mount the camera upside down and tilt it forwards. And you may get hands or handlebars coming into the view of the video. And I find it quite difficult to be consistent with that. So on the bike, I think it's better to have it on the handlebars. But there are quite a few disadvantages to that. First of all, it tilts on cornering. And of course, when you corner, your head doesn't tilt all the way. Your head stays a little bit upright. So it tilts more than you would normally, but it is good to have a little bit of tilt because you do that and it does feel you're immersed in the video. And on the handlebars, you get a lot of handlebar twitch, which is very disconcerting to the indoor cyclist. The low viewpoint in the handlebars is actually a lot lower than you would see as you're cycling. As you're cycling, your head is above the roofs of most cars. But the advantages of mounting it on a bike is that it follows the turns naturally. You mount it on the handlebar, you go left, the camera will follow left quickly as the wheel turns. If, however, you mount it on a car, the wheels are turning, but the bonnet lags behind, and you are often looking into a corner or out of a corner for too long. And on switchbacks, this can be really noticeable and, again, quite disconcerting. On the bike, you have a less obtrusive shadow, and on the car, if that shadow comes into the view of the recording, then it really spoils the illusion of the indoor cycling because you don't really want to see that your video has been recorded on a car and you're not actually cycling. You want to believe you're cycling a little more. The speed on a bike-mounted video is appropriate. On a car, you're going to have to record at a higher frame rate, so say 60 frames a second, and then slow that down to 30 in your post-production, and you'd have to slow down the GPX file as well. If you look at my changing timestamps video, you can figure out how to do that. You interpolate to 0.5 seconds, and then you replace all the timestamps with 1 second timestamps, and that will double the length of the video. Now, the other advantage of a bike is it stays upright on slanted roads. So if you've got an abnormal camber in the road, on the car, the horizon will be tilted, but your bike will stay upright. I would, however, recommend trying your first try in a car, because that's very easy to set up, and on the bike it's slightly harder to set up. So find a flat road with gentle turns and use that. If you're going to go for a climb with multiple switchbacks, then don't bother with the car. You definitely use a bike, and of course recording on a bike is more fun. Here are the mounts on my car. I haven't actually used this one yet. That's a new car for the extra children. And you've got the extra tether there, just in case this one fails. And here's what I was using previously. On the bonnet, it's awful. The view is far too low. On the roof, it's more appropriate. Other mounting options include e-bikes, scooter, especially for running, or I've put in Piaggio Ciao there, something like that. Now, things to avoid. You want to avoid shadows, as I've mentioned. You want to plan your video time and weigh up the traffic density versus the good light. Now, actually, if you've got the sun low in the sky, it can create for very dramatic lighting. So if you're going in the right direction, I'd go early morning and miss all of the traffic. But if the sun is behind you and casting a shadow, you're going to get the shadow coming into the video. Try to avoid cycling in groups, because you'll get a lot of cyclists blocking the view. And also, if you can choose a route without traffic lights, that makes editing much more simple. Now, here's how we remove handlebar twitch. And this idea was courtesy of a chap called Stefan on Kinomap, and his username is Zulu Matata, and he produces very good videos in Switzerland mainly, I think, but excellent videos and worth a look. And what this is doing is attaching to the top tube of my bike so that when my handlebars twitch, the camera doesn't twitch. And so that's sort of moving towards a car in terms of the way the camera moves, but it's nowhere near as bad. It actually follows the bike much better than it would on a car. So it still retains a proper view in the switchbacks. And here it is in action. So let's just have a look at that. You can see my handlebars twitching away and the camera is staying steady. So that really removes a lot of the twitch, which is quite disconcerting on a bike. So, some more tips. Before you set off, charge all your devices. Charge your GPS device, your camera, your power bank. Make sure there's enough space on your SD card. And also, be sure to set your GPS device to record at 1 second intervals. If you can't do that or don't know how to do that, watch my video on fudging it, where you interpolate timestamps. And also, one thing is you should choose your start and stop markers, and I've covered that in the previous videos. So you want to choose an easy to recognize landmark, a landmark that you can recognize on a simple map, so a road turning, for example. So that is where you're going to start, and you want to start your video and your GPX well before that point, and you want to cycle through that point. And then that will make life easy. When you want to crop your video, you just cut at that point. When recording, as I say, make sure you're filming before the start point. And if you're making a wrong turn, double back and repeat part of the ride before that wrong turn. Don't just go back to the turn and just carry on your ride, because you'll have no ability to overlap your videos and make a smooth transition. And finally, be safe and don't just focus on the video. And good luck and have fun recording videos. I hope this has been helpful. This is the end of my introduction to recording a GPX synchronized video, but I'm going to cover some more advanced features later on. Thanks for listening, and I hope this has been helpful, and if it has, do please hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. It just boosts the ego a little bit, so do that, and I hope to see some of your rides out there.